Strength Matters webinar. I am proud to present to you my good friend, my good buddy, Laura Nepodal, Becoming Mighty Women Who Strive for Strength. Laura, take it away.
Awesome. Well, thank you for everybody who's here. Thank you so much for showing up. I know it's your valuable time, and we'll try and make this as valuable and presentable as possible. So, and thanks to Seb for asking me to do this. I really appreciate it. You know, I in no way claim to be an expert at this. This is just what my experience has been, my personal experience, and then also working with my clients. You know, these are just this is a certain approach that I found to be very, very beneficial and very effective. So anyway, so yeah, Becoming Mighty, Women Who Strive for Strength. We can go to the next slide. So I just wanted to start with this next slide with a couple of women that I think are, they're representative of strength and mightiness in different ways. You know, on the left here, a lot of you probably recognize her, Abby Pudgy Stockton. She's this is around the 1940s on Muscle Beach in California. She weighed about 115 pounds and was able to hold her 185-pound husband overhead for long periods of time. She also was a perpetuator of women's fitness, overall fitness, and weight lifting competitions. The impressive lady you see here holding 3 men, her name is Katie Sanduina. This was the early 1900s. So she could, this is so impressive to me, she could single arm press her 165-pound husband, that's about 75 kilos. And the reason she goes by the name Sanduina is a lot of people are familiar with Eugen Sandow. He was kind of the father of modern bodybuilding. There was a contest to try and lift 300 pounds overhead. Eugen Sandow could only get the bar to his chest, and Katie Sanduina was able to get it over her head. So she adopted the female version of Sandow as her last name. Let's see, here on the right, the top right, that's Alex Puccio. She's an American rock climber. This picture was taken just a couple days ago. She's 4 months out from ACL and MCL surgery. She's an incredible athlete. She's climbing rock climbing routes that are difficult for all men save the very, very elite to do. And she just has a blast doing it. And then on the bottom right, some of you might have seen this. She was in the ESPN Body Issue. This is Amanda Binkson, and she's a hammer thrower. She was in the Olympics for it. And I just love that she had her interview was very interesting in the ESPN issue. And one quote in particular, she said that there are definitely things that I can do that skinnier people can't do, but then there are things that skinnier people do that I'll never be able to do, like run a marathon. Whatever your body type is, just use it. And I think that that's where we need to start. You know, what's in common between all these women? It's certainly not their body type. It's not a standard of beauty. It's not Photoshop. It's not even any form of aesthetic. It's the fact that they have no limits, that they only have this desire to realize and maximize their own potential. And they're destroying barriers, crushing public conventions, they're embracing this hard-earned strength, and they're having an absolute blast doing it. They're having fun doing it. And I really think that this is what being mighty is all about. Next slide, please.
Next slide, please.
So this is maybe just a more eloquent way of summing up what I just said. I think, and these are just my own personal feelings. What being mighty is, I feel like possessing this healthy valuation of your self-worth that is internally driven. We're constantly getting this stream of what makes you a valuable person, what makes you a viable person in this society. And when you get to a point where your sense of self-worth is a result of your own accomplishments and feeling good about what you've done, not because of what anyone else has said, I think that's a big step towards being mighty. Self-confidence that is inspired by how capable you are and being able to be self-reliant and your own integrity. Again, not needing to ask someone else to carry the full-size mattress, you know, into the house. It's great to be able to do that yourself. and I think also an important factor, and I don't know that this is as readily identifiable when you first think about mightiness, is having this joy at with your own strength, and having this curiosity to discover what your limits are, coming from a place of having fun with it and wanting to embrace it, and not feeling like you need to do it for any other reason than you love it. And then just being unapologetically strong with an intrinsic desire to lift heavy shit and crush it in an epic manner. Again, that just kind of ties in with having a good time with it and trying to go as far with it as you can for the love of it, and to satisfy your own curiosity about what you can possibly do. Next slide, please.
I really like that last point you say, unapologetically strong. Doesn't matter, the weight doesn't have a number on it. There is no, not saying you have to do this. It's just don't be sorry about it. If you're in the gym, you're lifting something or whatever, or just in normal everyday life, don't apologize for having for strength to complete whatever task. Don't be ashamed of it.
Exactly. We get caught up in this numbers game, in this comparison game. And again, if we're looking at women in particular, I remember there was a time I was deadlifting in a gym, and I don't know if it's because I'm assuming it's because I'm a woman, because other men aren't walking up to other men and saying, hey, look, check out this weight. But some guy came up and he's like, wow, that's more weight than most guys can deadlift in here. And it's like, oh, well, that's cool. Thank you. And then proceeds to tell me how I should be training and this and that. And kind of trying to school me on what I should be doing. And it's like, I got here because I put in the work, and I appreciate, the acknowledgement, but I'm gonna keep doing my thing. And that's not to say that I don't want the advice or I don't want this or that, but it's also just kind of embracing the fact that, I am strong. I'm getting to, and I'm trying to find my limits, and I'm trying to expand my limits. So sometimes we feel like we need to kind of scale it back a little bit for other people's comfort, but it's good to just keep embracing it and fighting the good fight.
I think what would be good as well is if all the ladies listening to this now, you go to the gym, you go up to some guys and say, hey, that's quite good. Let me show you how to do it properly, though.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Creating some interesting dynamics in the gym setting. So we can go to the next slide too.
Okay, so we got that up.
Yeah. So these are just a few excuses, and I don't want to say excuses in a flippant way, but things that hold us back a lot. Maybe not you in particular, or maybe not the client you're working with in particular, but I think these are a lot of very common reasons not to pursue potential. And they're viable reasons. They are, we're busy people. Maybe we're starting when we're a little bit older. Maybe we've always been told that we're too weak. There's a lot of emphasis on maybe you're too heavy, but then there's also on the other side of it, there's this whole campaign that strong is the new skinny, which I think is just absolutely absurd, because we're just skewing this extremism into this other quadrant. Because you get people that are just genetically skinny, and they're told that they're too weak. So that is also a viable reason that might hold people back. And women are, this list by all means is not exhaustive. Women are constantly inundated with reasons why they shouldn't be successful. When we're little kids, we're told that we're princesses who need saving. There's, generally speaking, a lack of acknowledgement of different body types, that there's genetic predispositions, there's this skewed ideal of the perfect body. Even social media, we're constantly seeing the best, what people want to share, and it's easy to feel like, wow, what's wrong with me then? My life's not that good. I don't look that good in a bikini on the beach in the Bahamas or whatever. And women are most often praised for the way they look and not necessarily acknowledged for how hard they work and the merits that we've earned. And it's easy to feel small and to feel like it's there's a lot of fear, I think, that results because of this, and limits us and makes us feel like we can't really achieve our full potential.
I think on that one as well is I think you hit the nail right on the head there. Is regarding social media, women are praised for how they look, yet not for what they're actually doing. And even if you do see a picture or a video on Facebook, which I know somebody was circulating one the other day regarding inspiration for women, and it was a video of extremely hot women. Come on, I'm a red-blooded male. They were extremely hot women in very skimpy clothing, but you saw nothing about numbers, what they were lifting, or even technique. It was just the fact they were extremely hot women wearing very little clothing. Yet, you see videos of guys all the time. Well, not all the time. You see videos of guys more often or not with incredible feats of strength. But when I did the strongman competition earlier this year, on the second day of the event, it was all for women, all females. And I was in awe, not because of some of the ladies' physical attraction, but in awe of what these ladies were also lifting and doing and performing. And sure as hell, there was a lot of the ladies doing a lot more weight than what the guys did on the previous day. Even Lawrence Charlet came up to me at one point, the judge, World's Strongest Man competitor, and was laughing at me going, how many tire flips did you do yesterday? It's like, God damn it. Why can't we just have pictures of a female, of a lady who cares about her size? Let's see the picture of her. Let's see a lady who people would say on the street, she might be a bit overweight, but carrying a goddamn over 100 kilograms, over 200 pounds Hasselfeld stone, or flipping a 150 kilogram tire. Why can't we get those pictures up and praise those?
Yeah, I mean, there's this social commentary that's always going on. And with social media, I mean, it's incessant because, I find myself, I'm trying to take a bit of a hiatus away from some of social media because I find myself even in a moment where I'm standing in a line or I've got to wait for something for a few minutes, I just flip Facebook open. And so look, even in those moments where we might before have just kind of had ourselves to sit with, now we're like being inundated all the time with just these little messages that sometimes have barbs, sometimes don't, but it's just there. It's just constant stream going through your mind. It's hard for it to not affect you.
Well, mate, I'm pretty sure the guys and girls who are listening to this now I know for a fact, are a hell of a lot more decent people. And maybe they can start the process of getting some great pictures out there, getting some great media content out there. The wonderful ladies that they work with doing more than just looking good, but performing good as well.
Yes, I agree. I mean, that's key. It really does start with us, but absolutely. I think it's an important campaign to embark on. And then that kind of leads to the next slide.
There we go.
Thanks. So I think that one of the first steps to becoming mighty is to start saying no to these diminishing messages that we find in our social environment, and to start saying yes to our own potential. It's in there. Everybody's got this potential that is unrealized and hungry and ready for you to embark on this journey to find it. So the first step is to start saying yes to it and no to all these messages that would maybe try and keep you down, or maybe try and keep your female clients down, and to get started with it. So with that in mind, we'll go right on to the next one, to the next slide, where I've kind of got 3 points here. And again, this is not exhaustive, but in thinking about this, these were 3 points that I thought were important. So the first one being meeting the individual where they're at, whether it's yourself as a woman or your female clients. I think the most important thing to start off with is you must know and believe in your bones that your starting point is always good enough. It's easy to put it off. It's easy to be like, I'm going to start on a Monday. I'm not feeling too good today. I had those nachos last night. I had the pizza last night. Or saying like, man, I really want to go start some fitness classes, but I feel embarrassed going the way I look now. I'm going to lose 5 pounds. And this is really not uncommon at all. There are these reasons to kind of put it off. And because we feel like we're not where we want to be, where we want to expose ourselves, because this journey, it does make you vulnerable. You are, whether you're doing it yourself, you're pushing to these boundaries that it can be a scary process. And then when you're doing it with other people involved, with a personal trainer or in a group setting, you've got other people where you're being vulnerable around them. So it's easy to try to put that starting point away from us because we feel like we're not good enough where we are now. But the first step is to accept exactly where we are right now. Even if it's not where we want to be, it is always good enough. By doing this, we're giving the individual a safe space to explore and fail in and push harder in and ultimately to excel in. And so, whether you've had a knee replacement or they're severely overweight or they're just not strong enough yet or they're a little bit older, like these are all acceptable starting points. And again, I'm going to go a little bit into psychology here because there is, I was telling a friend last night in class that I was doing this webinar today about trying to get women to embrace their own strength and to empower women to be strong. And he's like, well, just tell them to lift heavy weights. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, that is an important component to it, but there's definitely, one of the women in the class was like, no, that's totally not all. There's like this huge mind game to it. And that's kind of what I want to try and touch on a little bit. Because we need to make space for individuality. We can't approach this as like a one shoe fits all. It's our responsibility as coaches, as personal trainers, or even just as well-rounded, self-aware practitioners of strength to take the time to know the real person we're working with. Because really the only shared definition of personality is that we're all unique. So we need to determine an individual's own uniqueness in order to effectively be able to help them on their journey. Next slide, please.
Next slide. There we go.
Awesome. So I don't want this to be daunting or at all. This is kind of just this. It's a widely accepted diagram of what the structure of personality looks like. You could also think of this as like the pillar of mightiness, or maybe the barrier to mightiness at first, wherever you are in your journey or wherever your clients are in their journey. But just briefly, we've kind of got these three components to who we are, to like what our personality is. The base being the psychological core, and this is kind of the most basic level of our personality. It's the deepest component. It's the hardest to change. It includes kind of our attitudes, our values, our interests, motives, our beliefs about ourselves and about our self-worth. And this is kind of considered the real you, and it's the hardest to get to know. Above that, we've got typical responses, and this is the ways that an individual adjusts to their environment or how they would usually respond to the world around them. So example, if we're keeping in the scope of what we're talking about, a woman looks at a weight and says, that's too heavy for me because I'm a woman, or I can't do that because I'm not strong enough, which you'll hear a lot at the start. So these typical responses, they're a good indicator of the psychological core and where the person's at. And above that, at the very top of the pyramid, we've got role-related behaviors. So this is kind of how you act based on what you perceive your social situation to be. So example, if you as a woman, you may play the role of being dependent on others to do your heavy lifting because you've been told your whole life you're just a woman, or you're too weak to do that, you're not strong enough to do that, or you're too small to do that. Or sometimes, you'll find yourself laughing at someone's joke because you're expected to, not because you find it actually funny, because that's what social graces dictate, or what your social environment dictates. And this really, it's not an accurate depiction of your personality. And this is why I encourage you to really get to know either yourself as a woman or to get to know your female clients, like what is at their root, because this is the facade that we wear in a given situation. So again, I remember I had this client. She had a lot of insecurity, but she would try to she was either always demeaning herself, saying, oh, I can't do that, I can't do that, or there were times, I caught another person in class kind of poking fun at something she did, and she would just laugh and be like, oh yeah, that was really stupid. And she would laugh it off, but you could tell at her core she was immensely insecure, and I was so proud of her for being there at all in the first place, because she really had a lot of insecurity. But those little things where we laugh it off, those things hurt. Those little comments can hurt. And it's important to be constructive in the way that we communicate with people, especially when they're allowing themselves to be, and allowing you to be around them when they're being vulnerable. So this role-related behavior at the top, it's kind of, while it's superficial, it's also our first touchstone and our first barrier to overcoming. It's the first barrier that we have to overcome on our way to becoming mighty. So this is where we can encourage and discourage certain responses. Again, like in that situation where the person is saying like, oh, I can't do that, like I'm too weak. Just being like, hey, you know what? Why don't you give it a go and see how it is? And if it feels a little too heavy now, we'll go back a step, but just know like that's in your future. Just trying to instill these little changes, these little seeds of possibility in them. And by taking the time to get to know the person, to get to know what their basic structure of personality is, what their uniqueness is, what they really want. When you take the time to do that and understand the real them, it really allows you and them to accurately set goals, which we can go to the next slide for that.
Okie dokies.
So I love the sound effects. Important component. So determining long-term goals and enabling success with stepping stone goals using a shared language. So again, by knowing the person, you're going to be able to do this a lot more accurately. So in terms of long-term goals, 90% of the time in my experience for women, the original goal is going to be to make adjustments to body composition, whether it's losing body fat or quote unquote toning up, growing a butt, etc. You want to be supportive of these long-term goals, and know that the initial goal will likely change as the individual undergoes their own personal growth while they're training with you. So originally, I had this other client that she did gastric bypass surgery. She was a couple 100 pounds overweight, and she was there to continue losing weight. And as a woman that had been severely overweight for much of her life, she was undergoing this journey where her goal was to look a certain way. But over time, while we were training, she found that she started becoming addicted to this feeling of being capable and moving well and being able to do things that she had never been able to do before when she was heavier. And so her long-term goal ended up shifting a little bit. Sure, she wanted to get to a certain weight and look a certain way, but more than that, it became more about, I wonder if I can do this. I wonder if I can get strong enough to do that. And that became the goal. And that's incredibly empowering when your goals become more geared towards how capable you are versus how you look. And I think that's, as coaches, that's something we need to encourage. It's not something you can force down anybody's throat. It's something that they need to start to feel, but we can really feed into it. So when they're determining the parameters of success, and when we're doing that, really encouraging this shift of focus from just the way that a woman looks to how capable, to her capabilities, her capableness, by praising the individual for their efforts and their accomplishments and not just their body changes, which those are that's important to acknowledge as well, because that is also part of their journey. But when you acknowledge somebody for everything they put into their into creating this change versus just the result, I think that has a much longer term effect. You know, and in terms of stepping stone goals, I kind of like to call them that, because it's just one goal that you hop from to the next on your way to this ultimate long-term goal. You know, encouraging healthy, empowering parameters for that too, instead of being like, hey, lose, you know, I want to lose 5 pounds with this, or 10 pounds by this date. We all know, I mean, I'm assuming some of the listeners, if not all of the listeners, have been working with other people, or they have an understanding that when it comes to changing your body composition, you know, fat and muscle have a different weight. So sometimes the scale weight might go up a little bit, but your body composition has drastically changed. So sometimes, you know, scale weight is rarely a healthy marker. You know, so having like healthy parameters, like, okay, like I want to be able to do this volume or this load or this intensity or duration in this workout, because you know that the person is getting healthier to be able to accomplish this load or this change in load, or successfully maintaining an eating habit, something that our very own Josh Hillis talks about extensively. And I just love his work because it's so empowering in the way that he approaches it. Also, I think this is just a little aside, telling someone to have a body goal. I remember when I actually was overweight when I was in high school, and when I started on my own fitness journey, I had a boyfriend tell me, oh, you should find somebody that you want to look like. And actually, I don't think she knows this, and I didn't know her at the time, but the person was Lauren Brooks. And so funny, like small world. And now I know her and I love her, and she's a very good friend. But, you know, Lauren Brooks and I have very different body types, and we have different training. And I think even if I tried really hard, I could never look exactly like Lauren Brooks. And I'm at a point where I'm totally okay with that. But she's beautiful and amazing. But again, like that's just not me. That's not my body type. So I think to have these body goals based on another person can be kind of dangerous. So I would not necessarily, I wouldn't condone that. I mean, to each their own, but I think that there's some risk when it comes to that. I think keeping it as individually based as possible is the safest and the most effective and most empowering thing to do. So again, shifting this focus from the way we look and more towards our capabilities. And one more little aside before we move on, my own personal feeling, you want to try and say yes to goals as often as possible. So again, while shifting this focus, you also, I've heard of a lot of coaches, they'll limit what kind of movement somebody can do. So, you know, you'll get somebody that says, I would like to try the, let's say the Turkish get-up. And they're just told, no, you're not strong enough to do that. You haven't earned the right to do that movement. I think that's really damaging, because again, women are used to being told, no, you're not strong enough to do that. No, you're incapable of doing that. So when someone expresses an interest to kind of push into this new territory, I think it's our duty to say yes. So even if they're not strong enough, or maybe they're still a little too heavy, or there's a concern with even health-wise, I think it's our responsibility as a coach, even if they can't perform the whole movement, to try and create regressions or some other slightly altered form of the movement, so that they can still have that feeling of accomplishment and still be taking those steps forward to realizing their potential. I think we should try and say no as little as possible while staying within these like healthy parameters.
I think also that would be a true skill and worth of you as a coach as well. If somebody is unable to do something for whatever reason, is how you could adapt things to start the progression and build up to getting them to that as well. No, it's just such a terrible word. Do you know, actually, in negotiation situations, the negotiator is not allowed to say the word no?
No, really?
Yeah,
Well, I
because
just said it.
it's a negative word, and it'll only start making the individuals thinking negatively and possibly ending the situation in a very bad way. So it's not never a no. It's usually something else that can deter away from that thought pattern. And it's very
Yeah.
important. It's very important for coaches to do the same.
Again, yeah, exactly. You're introducing this negativity and like this again, this mindset that we're trying to get away from. We're trying to get towards this shared language of that goes more towards how capable you are and how like what these new parameters are, what these new empowering ideas are. And yeah, you can do this. Maybe you can't do the whole thing quite yet, but we are going to get you there. And we're going to do these steps right now to get there from point A to point B. And I think that's extremely crucial in terms of helping to shift focus and helping to adjust that mindset and to address some of those deeper components of a person's personality makeup. So, we're here to facilitate the success of this individual. We're here to try and create this shared language. We're here to try and empower them to keep pursuing this curiosity that's starting to burgeon in them, that's starting to form in them. But we're not there to create it. So if we want to go to the next slide, I wanted to touch on facilitating a paradigm shift. So many superheroes, they've got a sidekick. As a coach or a personal trainer, you want to be that sidekick to this expanding mightiness in this person. You want to be there. You don't need the leotards or the tights or any of that stuff, but just be there, be there to support them. Let them do the work, and you're there to help them out when they need it. I think it's easy to start getting really excited. I know I've felt it in the past when you see somebody I know, like in kettlebell class, if I see somebody grab they were always too afraid to do heavy swings because they're like, oh, it's going to hurt my back. It's like, no, it's not going to hurt your back. And you tell them that, and they've experienced it, but they still have this fear because they've been told that it's going to hurt their back. And then you see them go, and they're strong enough. You've seen their deadlifts, that for some reason deadlifts didn't make this person fearful, but swings did. So I knew she was strong enough when she reached for the 24 kilo, and she just started swinging, and they were beautiful swings. And like the smile on her face afterwards, I was like, man, like that's what this is all about. This is amazing. And it's easy to start feeling like, I did that. Like I helped her with that. Like I helped her get to that point. And that might be true to a certain level, but you don't want to take responsibility for it because, again, you're there to help them out when they need it, but they're doing all the hard work. They're the ones that are making the paradigm shift happen within themselves. But we're there to help facilitate it. We're there to try and give them reminders, to be their cheerleaders without that actually really believe, that believe in them. We've taken the time to get to know them, to get to know the real them. We know that there is this root that is hungry to reach this potential that they haven't realized before. And we have the honor of being there to help them out and watch them as they realize it. And these shifts, they often take time, and it's our responsibility as a coach or a personal trainer to make sure that the space that we create for them feels both safe and also holds the individual to the commitment to themselves. So we're there to offer a helping hand when they kind of get to off track a little bit. Another analogy would be we're kind of the rails in a way for the train, but we're not the engine. We're not deciding where it's going to go. We're just there to kind of help keep them on track. And we just want to keep emphasizing as coaches this burgeoning capability and the hard efforts as the markers for success. Again, talking more, we've changed the language for succeeding from, wow, you look awesome. which it's nice to hear. Like, you want to acknowledge that. You want to acknowledge that they've made these physical changes. But more than that, you want to be like, wow, when you first came to my class, you were afraid of picking up the 8-kilo kettlebell. And look at you now. You're swinging that 24 kilo like you're its boss. That's freaking awesome. It's great to remind them every so often, especially when they're having off days, because we all have them, that it's a journey, it's a process. And just keep facilitating that shift. You know, you don't want to be overly exuberant. I forget who said it, but when working with people, you know, whether it's customer service or, you know, personal training, whatever it is, you always want to be like one notch higher energy than they are. You don't want to be more than that, because then you're just freaking annoying. Like, you're not doing anybody any favors. And you don't want to be less than that, because then you're dragging them down. But you want to just be that person that when they're having a down day, you meet them where they're at. Again, like, where they're at is always good enough in that moment. It's a part of their journey. You just want to meet them there, and just keep reminding them, like, keep enforcing that healthy shared language that you guys are establishing, that they're making these steps towards realizing this potential that they've never done before. And that's really, really exciting. So again, we need to challenge in order to grow, in order to facilitate growth or this shift in a person, we need to be sure that they're being challenged and stressed. Right? Everybody needs some form of stress to grow, you know, to kind of crack and go beyond their original boundaries. And it's our responsibility, again, to facilitate this space that feels both safe but also challenging in a supportive way. You know, we're going to help push them past what they thought was not possible. You know, they thought it was beyond them. And that happens more at the beginning, I think, too, because as women start to realize, like, wow, I did that last week. Like, I could totally do that this week. And hey, maybe I'll do another rep. Or they start eyeing that slightly heavier kettlebell or the slightly heavier barbell. And that's when things start to get really exciting, when we continue to facilitate this shift where it goes from I can't do that to I wonder if I can do that. And I talked about it a little bit, I think, in the first article I wrote with Strength Matters, was that maybe is enough sometimes. When you just see that glimmer in somebody's eye, when they think, I wonder if I can do that. That's the kind of shift that we want to facilitate. We want to try and change the mindset of our female clients that I can't do that to maybe I can do that. And then to hopefully they'll realize on their own, yeah, I can do that. And again, that just comes from a safe environment where they can fail in, they can cry in, they can laugh in, they can expand into, and they can just crush in. And we have the pleasure of trying to provide that for them. So we always want to try and celebrate their successes and just take the failures when they happen, because they're always going to happen, as indicators that maybe we need a new stepping stone goal in order to get to that destination. It doesn't have to be catastrophic. It just means an adjustment. And I think one of the most important things is to make sure it's fun, because nobody wants to stick with anything that they're not having a good time with. And again, this means checking in with them. This means getting to know them, and trying to make it playful and encourage that playful curiosity. And you know, you want movement to be daring and ornery and playful and enjoyable, or else they're not going to want to stick with it. And you know, that's why I think, you know, for instance, we talk a lot about the kettlebell, and I think it's a fantastic tool because it's so dynamic and it's so it addresses so many things. But some people it might not be the right tool for. So making sure that they're enjoying what they're doing is going to help them stick with it, and it's going to make them see or wonder, how far can I go with it, because they want to go. That's where they want to go, and they're not going to want to go if they're not having fun. So I think sometimes we forget that fun, like having fun, is a crucial element. You don't see kids excelling at much unless they find some aspect of enjoyment in it. And I think as adults, we forget, we just kind of tough it out like, oh, well, this sucks, but I got to do it. And sometimes that's the case, but in this, it doesn't have to be that way when it comes to movement. We should love it. It just means we're going to stick with it, and it's another step towards mightiness. So, that's kind of the gist of what my thought process was, when I was thinking about this. But I did want to kind of end this off with a quote that I just saw that I thought was fantastic. It's on this last slide.
Last slide. Here we go.
And it's, don't fashion me into a maiden that needs saving from a dragon. I am the dragon, and I will eat you whole. And I love it. I just think it's fantastic. I shared it at one point, and someone was like, oh, I'm scared of you now. It's like, dude, I'm not going to eat you. Like, that's not the point. Like, I'm not tending towards cannibalism. Like, that's so beyond the point. It's the fact that, like, I don't need, we as women, we don't need anyone to save us. We don't need anybody to come in and help us out because we are incapable. We all need help, but it's a choice. It's not because we don't have it within us. And I just love this message because it just enforces that, like, women can be incredibly powerful and badass. And I truly believe that strength training and working with weight and working with the physical body is just an incredible way to facilitate these empowering changes. And I think that I think it's important work that everybody's doing, and I just encourage everyone that's working with female clients, and I encourage all the women that are listening to try and take steps to realizing their own potential, to finding the boundaries and trying to even push past them, creating new ones, and having a good time with it, and saying, I wonder how far I can go with this, and really perpetuating this new, healthier language that looks more at capability and not just at how pretty you look that day.
Absolutely. And what a great opportunity we've all got as coaches in life now to be able to place ourselves side by side with these ladies and not guide them, but walk with them on their journey as well. I think it's a great thing and absolutely a privilege to be standing in that position as well. And I encourage all of our coaches to take a stand in this type of manner as well. I love that quote. It's kind of similar to one I read either earlier today or yesterday, kind of along the same lines, where two people are talking and one says to the other, there's a storm coming. You won't be able to weather the storm. And the other person turns around and says, I am the storm.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, absolutely love that.
That's so awesome.
Guys and girls all tuning in, remember, when you send us messages, there is a bit of a time delay. So if you've got any questions to ask at the moment, do start typing them now so they can pop up. And also, please show your appreciation for Laura as well, who has done this, as I said, a very quick time frame. And I massively appreciate it. I think actually that was the depth of that presentation seemed to be more than just a few days thinking. That's something that, I don't know, you're either an extremely deep person, Laura, or you've been thinking about this type of stuff for quite a while.
Well, I do think about it because, personally speaking, it's been something that I've thought a lot about. I touched on the fact that I was overweight in high school and kind of dealt with depression in high school, and I really feel that weight training was a huge facilitator in me getting out of that negative space and in feeling like I was capable of a lot more than I originally thought. And so, I've done a fair amount of thinking about it with myself and then with my clients. I've just seen it time and time again. I think it's just the coolest thing. You just see this transformation start to take place. And whereas before the conversation usually talked about, we would talk about like, oh, well, kind of talking down about the choices they'd made, or not feeling good about themselves, or how it was hard to put the jeans on that day. It becomes more about how good it feels to move, and wow, like my knees didn't hurt when I did that, or my low back doesn't have any more pain, or the other day I carried in that 40-pound that 40-pound bag of dog food all by myself. I didn't have to wait for my husband to come home. Like that's so cool.
Absolutely right. We got a question coming in from Tracy. Hello, Tracy. Hey, Laura. Thanks for describing my work every day, confirming I am the right path and express so eloquently. Tracy, all right, we're in a question.
No, thank you, Tracy. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, it's such important work. It really, really is. It's work that the work you're doing now is stuff that's going to last a lifetime, because again, it's this paradigm shift. It changes the way people look at themselves and the way they look at themselves in relation to the world. If we think back to that personality, that structure of personality, it's this, I like to think of it as this pyramid, or you can think of it as concentric circles even, but we're surrounded by this social environment that oftentimes gives women this diminishing message. I mean, a lot of markets in the world thrive off of women thinking they're not good enough. Men too, of course, but in terms of what we're talking about now, it benefits a lot of the world for women to think that they're not very capable, and it's so powerful and so incredible when a woman starts to think past what the social inundations are, and starts to realize that her own worth is self-determined, and just extend some strength and love in that direction, and a lot of great things can happen.
Mega stuff. We got another message from the lovely Dorothy saying, thank you very much. This is a great message I needed to hear myself. I don't give myself enough credit. Not young enough, not buff enough, but I really am a dragon, and I will keep plowing ahead.
Oh, I wish you could see the smile on my face. That's incredible. You are a dragon. You all are. Everybody is. It's just it's a matter of awakening that dragon and acknowledging that dragon that's in all of us. And again, strength training is just one channel to get there. I think it's a huge proponent. I believe in it completely. And yeah, I think that's fantastic. Thank you, Dorothy.
Mega. Okay, well, we do got a question coming in from Jenny, and it is, how do you position yourself when marketing? Fat loss, strength. Are there key words you can recommend? They are both results from the program, but don't want to scare women away.
I don't know if I'm quite understanding the last part of that question.
It's probably the way I'm reading it. Let me give it another go.
From the programs, but don't want to scare women away. So, well, in terms of marketing, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm not a key marketer. There's a lot of people that are much better at it. I think that it's still important to acknowledge that again, like I said, like 90% of women are getting into training because they want to adjust their body composition. And I think that it's important to acknowledge that. But I think we can also throw keywords into our marketing. I think we do need to acknowledge, like, you'll lose weight, you'll get stronger. And of course, there's this perpetual fear that women are it's not feminine to be strong. So there are a lot of factors that we need to touch on. But I think it is important it may not be the most popular way of marketing. So again, I'm not a guru at marketing at all, so I may not be the best person to answer this question, but the clients that I get are from word of mouth, from, wow, so-and-so said that they lost this weight, but they also felt stronger and felt more capable than they had at any other point in their lives. And some of these women are in their 50s or 60s. You know, and of course I get younger women as well. But I think in our marketing, touching on capability and, you know, feel more self-reliant and more capable of doing the things that you want to do and achieving the goals that you want to achieve. And I don't know precisely how you would word that, but I think that there is a way to put a healthy spin on it and not to just feed into this idea of you need to look better to be better. We can be better just by shifting some stuff that we, you know, inside some of our paradigms, and having the outside maybe be a reflection of that, but more than that, just putting more emphasis on what we can actually do.
Mega stuff. And just in case any more questions are flooding in, as I said, there is a time delay. Just to let you know that Laura is a contributor to the Strength Matters magazines with some incredible and wonderful articles as well. But of course, she has given permission for this. If you do have any specific questions, you're a bit shy or don't have the time to ask it and listen to the advice now, she has given me an email address that you can get in touch. It is Laura, LAURA, NEP@gmail.com. But of course, this webinar is going to be put out. There you go, it's popped up on the talk. This webinar is going to be put up in the members group in the next couple of days, guys, so you can rewatch it. But of course, what we also want to do is please let everybody know about the work we are trying to do here at Strength Matters as well. Remember, we're trying to not only help you as coaches, but the people you are working with, hence the information. So the podcast, please share and please give reviews to our podcasts as well, whether you're in the States or the UK or Australia or anywhere else in the world. It really does help us reach out to more people where we can offer advice. Same thing goes to our Facebook posts and, of course, Twitter and Instagram as well. On that note, hashtag Strength Matters, hashtag why I swing. I adore seeing your photos, looking at them every single week and then lining them up for picture of the day as well. We did mention mine and Josh's new Facebook pages, and of course our emails, seb@realstrengthmatters.com or josh@realstrengthmatters.com. And you can also find out more information about the Cowbell Certs in San Diego, the 5th to the 7th of February, and in Seattle, the 22nd and 24th of July, and the 7th. That's happening next year. Boom.
Awesome. I just wanted to thank everyone again for being here and for doing the great work you're doing. And Seb, thank you for the opportunity. This has been fantastic. You're fantastic. And yeah, a lot of appreciation and love to all you guys.
Thank you very much. And the same to you as well. And Jenny, you keep up the good work. I'm pretty sure the word of mouth reputation is going to build up massively. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, from Laura and from myself, thank you very much for joining us here at the Strength Matters webinar. Stay tuned for more information regarding next week's webinar as well, which is going to be a doozy. Good. Bye.
Bye.